Wow. Well, the good news is that the Phillies scored more than the Vikings did last night. But the bad news is, just like the Vikings, they lost. As we welcome you here to Phillies Postgame Live, brought to you by Cure Auto Insurance. Amy Fiddle, Ricky Patalka. And Ricky, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this game. It was a disaster.
This was one of the ugliest baseball games I've ever seen in my life. You know what? The Phillies were coming off 4 losses in a row, 3 to the Atlanta Braves. They have an off day to refresh themselves. Obviously, they didn't come back ready to play tonight. You give up 18 runs. 18 runs. Kyle Gibson, nope. Once again, struggled again, especially with 2 outs. I mean, it is driving me up a wall. All you have to do is put 1 out in the books. And then when you look at this whole game, the Phillies bullpen gave up 9 earned runs. So there's no happiness there, not by anybody in that bullpen. Everybody who came out of there, with the exception of Stubbs, who's not even a pitcher, didn't pitch well. You look at what the Blue Jays did was almost as embarrassing. I mean, they had guys coming into the game and not throwing strikes, up 9-10 runs, walking the bases loaded. Come on, man. Stop bringing up guys that aren't ready to pitch in the big leagues to start with. And when you look at the Phillies with the Coonrod and the Brogdon, those guys are struggling right now. And I really believe that they're just tired and beat up and they can't get the job done. So the Phillies right now are looking just that, tired with a long way to go. And I'm telling you right now, thank goodness for the Brewers, because they couldn't beat themselves right now.
Yeah, the Brewers are losing right now to the Mets. You're cheering for the Mets tonight, because that's where we're at right now after an 18-11 loss. Let's go back across the way and check in with John Kruk after this one from Citizens Bank Park. And John, I mean, you guys talked about it on the broadcast. This game obviously had a wonky feel from it pretty much from the jump when you saw how poorly Kyle Gibson performed in those first couple innings. But every time the Phillies even thought about doing anything, the wheels would fall off, whether it was, not plating any runs when you had guys on or throwing the ball away and committing errors.
Yeah, this might have been one of the ugliest games I've seen the Phillies play. And you score 11 runs, I don't care, what pitchers that the Blue Jays brought in. You score 11 runs, you should win this game. I don't care who you're playing. Now, Toronto's a powerful offense. We knew that coming in. But, you get helped out with 3 errors. Could have been more errors, I would think, if you can't give them extra outs. They're too good at offense, and the way the pitching was tonight for the Phillies, you gave them extra outs and they just punished you.
I hate showing this because I don't want it to come.
It's truthful though.
But
I'm sorry,
these are facts.
I was not a firm believer in this is going to be a collapse. I thought the last few years they didn't have the team, and now all of a sudden here we go, 5-game losing streak.
So this is the fifth season in a row when you look at it. They're currently on a 5-game losing streak. 6 of the last 7. You and I remember 7 of the final 8 because we did half of those together. You're thinking they would win one of them. They did not in the last couple. 8 of last 9 are those from September to 19th to 26th.
We haven't even gotten to the final 7 or 8 yet.
I know, and think about it. Like that's why I don't want to talk about it, but at the same time, this is a factual thing. It starts creeping up again, and you and I were here in August, and they started kind of like swinging a little bit, and you thought, uh-oh, maybe it's in the back. Is it in the back of their heads? They have
I don't know
history.
if it's necessarily in the back of all these guys' heads, but I want you to think about this for a second. We'll go back to at least 2020 or 2019 that I could remember. It was the bullpen that started falling down.
Yeah.
And what happens when your bullpen stinks in September? You lose games late. You look at what's happening now. Yes, I know Kyle Gibson was horrible in this game, but then the bullpen didn't help anybody out. It was almost like the Phillies made that little comeback to cut it to, wow, it was 7-5. 7-5. They cut it to 7-5. Now you're thinking to yourself, wow, major comeback. All of a sudden, wow, adrenaline rush. Everything's going to go in the Phillies' favor after this. And instead, it was like, okay, we're just going to put more runs in, more runs. And it was when you have guys in the middle of your rotation in the bullpen that aren't getting the job done, that is a bridge. Yeah. That is a bridge to the 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. And if those guys aren't doing the job, even if you get it to those guys in the end, we saw what Sir Anthony did last week in Atlanta. He struggled. Robertson has been kind of up and down as of late, and Hand has been really struggling lately. They are beat up. Yeah. The bullpen's beat up. And to be beat up in September, that equals a lot of losses in September.
And it ends up
And think about all these years past, it's been the same thing.
Yeah, the wheels certainly have come off, and we're seeing that right now. 5th straight loss. There is a silver lining as the Phillies are chasing October, because that is the Brewers losing right now to the Mets. You're cheering for the Mets tonight if you can stomach that. So if that score holds, they'll still be 2.5 up, which is exactly where they enter the day. I mean, the thing is, they're having to rely on the Brewers also losing. That's where you don't want to be in a situation like this, where you're trying to end a 10-year postseason drought.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing about watching this right now is I want the Phillies to go in on their own. When you sit back, I mean, I'm sure they're looking at the Brewers score and going, well, we didn't lose anything tonight, ha ha ha. And by the way, this thing with the position players pitching, this has got to stop. Throwing a white flag. You start doing this, just throwing a white flag. It's getting old. It's not cute anymore. When Garrett Stubbs has been on the mound 4 times this year,
it's ridiculous.
You have a serious problem. And it's not funny anymore. I know everybody thinks it's all fine and dandy, but when it comes down to September and you're getting your butts handed to you for 5 nights in a row, I don't think that should be funny to anybody. I mean, it's just one of those things. Look, the Phillies got to kick it back in gear, and they are in a tough spot right now. You have another game with Toronto tomorrow, and then you have 4 games with the Atlanta Braves, who kind of just wiped up with you
in every
down
way
in Atlanta. So you better figure out a way to straighten this thing out, because I will say this much. The Milwaukee Brewers might not be playing good baseball right now, but they do play the Cincinnati Reds for a 4-game series over the weekend.
That is key, because you cannot rely on someone else to take care of what you can do yourself. Positive spin right now.
It's brutal. It was brutal.
I mean, you can't cut it 2 ways.
Brutal
There's
game.
only one way you can look at it, and it was
They deserve to lose.
You and both, you, John Kruk, and you both said that was the ugliest game you've probably seen, maybe ever, but certainly in a really long time.
Ever.
Let's get Rob Thompson's take on it now.
Everything that happened tonight.
Yeah, we didn't miss many bats, you know. I mean, there weren't many swings and misses. They did a good job on our pitchers. Seemed like they were on everything. So, but I was happy with our offense, and our guys kept battling back and coming, but we just couldn't hold them off.
You think some of these guys on the pitching staff are kind of running out of steam here late in the season?
Yeah, I think most people this time of the year are running, not just our club, but all clubs. But, you know, they just had a day off yesterday, and a lot of those guys have had a couple of days off. So we just got to regroup and go get them tomorrow.
Was there a thought of maybe pulling Gibson a little bit sooner?
Yeah, but, you know, you were coming off the off day and didn't want to really run through our entire bullpen. So, you know, just trying to get as many pitches out of them as we possibly could. And then the offense came alive. So.
What have you seen from him this month? He's really struggled.
Yeah, he's been hot and cold. You know, this last start in Miami was pretty good. He went 6 innings and didn't walk anybody, and looked like his location was pretty good. And you know, today I haven't looked at where all the pitches were and at the tape, but you know, he didn't have many swings and misses, so he must have been out over the plate and hittable pitches. So we got.
Sure thing to pitch this turn through the rotation.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Do you know anything about the severity of Marsh's injury?
It's a contusion, left knee. We'll reevaluate tomorrow. They checked him out. They don't think there's any ligament damage or anything like that.
Some defensive misplays, a running mistake. Is that concerning to you, or do you chalk it up?
I chalk it up to one of those days. I mean, Stotts played really, really well. And, you know, the play up the middle, he just tried to force something in the first inning. And the play on the kind of chopper ground ball, he had a little bit more time than he thought. So we lost the ball in the sky. As soon as the ball went up, I told Cal, our bench coach, I said, that's going to be a tough play, because I could barely see it from where I was. And the Hoskins there was a tough play, and I was on the ground trying to hit a pitcher covering first base. So yeah, it was you know, didn't look real good. So we got to regroup and come back tomorrow and get some runs for Wills and you know, get a lead and let those 2 guys settle in.
Are you worried about guys getting tired or just thinking too much about kind of what's maybe snowballing?
No, I don't think so. Not with this group. I really don't. We got good character people in the clubhouse, and they're always upbeat. Even today when we were down, they were, a lot of energy in the dugout, helping each other out. Everybody had each other's back, and they fought. So I'm not too worried about that. I think we're just going through a little bit of a dry spell. That's all. Thanks, guys.
I would say your 1 through 4 hitters came through tonight. Schwarber, outstanding. Good for him. 40 is a big milestone in Major League Baseball. Always has been, and he deservedly so. I mean, he's had himself a nice little season. Maybe he can't tack on a few more, get up to 43, 44 would be outstanding, and it would be a great year for him. But, I mean, tip your cap to that guy, because you should be happy for him, because he's a hard-nosed player. He goes out there every day to win. And let me put it this way. If I was to pick a guy who I know is out there busting his butt every day to win, it's Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, I think he'd probably turn in a couple of those home runs if it was a couple more victories for his team. Well, you talked about the 1 through 4. Let's check in with a 3-hitter, Bryce Harper.
It's never a good time for a 5-game losing streak, but what's the mood of you guys right now?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to go into a game like that, especially starting out a homestand. You don't want to start like that. I thought I thought the offense battled really well. I thought we put the bat on the ball, had some good at bats tonight. Got Stripling out of there pretty early and got into that bullpen. But starting pitching bullpen, we just didn't have tonight, and it's part of it. And you go through those lulls, but got to forget that one today and get on to tomorrow. And tough matchup there with Gossman, but we got to get on early tomorrow.
Early in the season, you guys were winning a bunch of series against good teams. Not so much the case in the second half. Is that a concerning thing for you?
I mean, anytime you can win games, it don't matter who you play, or when you're losing games. I mean, it doesn't matter who you play. It's Major League Baseball, and when you run into anybody that plays professionally, it's going to be a tough game no matter what. So if we beat up on somebody that's not very good, or if we beat on somebody that's really good, win's a win, a loss is a loss.
Is it hard to keep in your mind when you're on a little bit of a rough patch that you guys are still in a good spot, you're still in a playoff spot, the math is still in your favor? Is it hard to keep that in mind, or
No, I mean, I think we're at the point where we need to win games, and it's we're at a crucial point in the season where we have to show up every single night that we play, no matter what, no matter who's over there or what's going on. So. Like you said, we're in a tough stretch right now. Hopefully we can flush this as quick as possible and get on to tomorrow and worry about trying to beat the Toronto Blue Jays tomorrow.